everyone, and welcome to another edition of Leopard Chat. I'm Laura Leopard, and today we're speaking with Mark Jacobson. Mark was a practicing attorney here in New York before turning to legal recruiting. He did start his own business, Legal Search, in 1998, and we're going to chat with Mark today about concerns of law students in the U.S. and this very difficult hiring season that they face. I know I'm aware of 2 or 3 law schools that have already announced that there is no summer associate program this year.
Yeah, a lot of the firms are cutting back on that for economic reasons. Mm-hmm. I remember being a law student, and the old days, if you went to a top law school and you did well, you got a great job after 3 years, and your second year, after eating franks and beans all the time, unless your parents were really funding you, you got this great summer associate position where you were probably making more money than you ever did in your life, and a taste of what it was going to be like next year, salary-wise, not work-wise, because they pretty much wined and dined us and took us to shows and ball games and parties, but then you really had to work once you started. But it's a tough time, and let's be frank, unless you went to a top law school and you were at the top of your class, or a second-tier law school, but you were at that top 5% or 10%, you're going to have a really hard time finding a job in this market. I think that the recruiting offices and a lot of law firms are at a loss because they can't force firms to hire junior associates. And I think the problem's going to be solved. There are a lot of things that can be done, but first, as a law student, if I was a law student now, and the law schools will be really appalled if they hear me say that, I would take a year off. I would take a year off. If you're a first year or second year, take a year off if you can and get any kind of job that you can think of. I mean, it doesn't have to be the most exciting job. Just earn a living and try to put another 12 months between you and the hiring market. There's so many things you can do depending where you are. I mean, you can waiter, waitress, work as a clerk somewhere, part-time salesperson, work at an old age home, get a job with the city you work for in one of the municipalities. I mean, there are a lot of things you can do to draw out your law school, to give yourself another year, because I have a feeling in 12 months things could be better, and you don't want to be the person getting out with no jobs and having a whole year with no work in your chosen field. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I would suggest. I think you could take graduates, if you want to take a year off, and volunteer for a company or an organization that might work into what you want to do. And the thing about volunteering or getting that credit on your resume is it doesn't matter how often you do it. You can basically volunteer 1 day a week and say, for 2009 I volunteered at the old age home in the Bronx, and I helped with this, and a lot of these facilities would be happy to have someone who's well educated to come in there as a volunteer and maybe help with legal issues, clerical issues, business decisions. They would appreciate it, and it'd be a good learning experience for you as well. And if you don't want to volunteer every day of the week, you do 1 or 2 days a week, and then get some kind of part-time job just to supplement yourself. But
you're saying to stretch that out, to put a distance between the hiring market right now.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you know you're going to get a job in a law firm, then that's fantastic. Go in there and take it. But it's going to be really tough. I mean, I'm getting resumes of people who graduated, second-tier law schools with a 3.5 or 3.6 GPA. They were on law review. They interned or clerked for a judge, and they're not getting offers. And that was last year. Wow. So I'm really concerned. I mean, you guys go to school, you spend all this time studying, and it's quite costly. You have, that wonderful law school student loan to pay off unless someone paid for it or you paid for it.
Right.
And there's no guarantee. And the law schools, I think, should be a little more discriminating and discerning at this point, and maybe cut back on their classes, because they're not going to place everyone. Mm. So we're going to have a couple of years where there are going to be a lot of lawyers on the market. But the bottom line is, you don't have to go to law school and be a lawyer. There are so many other things you can do with this degree. It's a good graduate degree. And I mean, there is there are so many good programs now to take professionals and get them to become teachers. There's a shortage of good teachers.
Right.
There's one organization, Teach for America, where it's very fulfilling, and if you want to get up there and speak in front of a courtroom all the time while speaking in front of a classroom of kids is very good practice.
Right.
And it's nice to share the knowledge you learned, and I mean, it depends on how creative you want to be. You could give a course at the Learning Annex or something like that on basic legal issues or how to negotiate, whatever. But you can reinvent yourself. Life is about reinventing yourself. I mean, I know both of us have had prior careers to what we're doing now.
Absolutely.
And it keeps life exciting. You don't want to do the same thing I didn't want to do the whole thing for my whole life. I mean, after practicing for several years, I opened up a recruitment firm, and I love being a legal recruiter. I think it is a fantastic job. It's fun. I feel I'm still helping people.
Absolutely.
And I'm always looking for good legal recruiters. But I think there are a lot of people have options. You have to really, really think outside the box, because the path you are planning on graduating and getting a job at a firm, a big firm or a medium firm, might not happen this year. And but that's okay. And it's the time to really apply to small firms or medium firms,
right,
or firms outside the city, and see what you can do.
That's right, in different areas of the country.
Yeah.
And if they do take a break, or if they don't get a job right away, then make the job that they do take count in some way.
Absolutely.
Because not only could you get a job where you could network and make other connections, you could also do an internship somewhere if you could afford
Exactly.
it.
I mean, that's true. I mean, cost is really important. I mean, if you come to law school, how are you supporting yourself? It's a very, very key issue. I think students know that you can put off your law school debts. I mean, I think that you don't have to pay them for the first 6 months, but you can defer them again if you are not working.
Okay.
So do that. I mean, seriously, you might really have to do this. Depending on your living situation, you might want to take in a roommate. You might want to, if I know you're cringing, move home and save some money. And there are everyone has to be very adaptable. But there are things out there you can do to find a job that will suit you and allow you maybe to segue back in a year. I think it's very crazy. I think that it's going to be very quiet for the next year to 18 months, and I think it's going to get really busy again, and all these places are going to realize we're understaffed.
Right. And then there'll be a flurry of activity to get them all back in.
Exactly.
And perhaps, it's not such a bad suggestion to think about, coming out of it, perhaps a little more well-rounded person. If you've been in school year after year after year without going into any other industry or seeing another part of the country.
Exactly. Well, what a great opportunity to do something like that, because that doesn't happen all the time. But seriously, internships and clerkships at companies you admire. Maybe you know someone who works at a company, or there's a field you really would like to get into. Try there. I mean, a friend of mine from law school did a non-paid internship for a record label, and it was a jazz record label in the city. And she worked after school, just volunteered, and they liked her so much that at law school they ended up hiring her. And find a company that you admire. It doesn't have to be a huge company, and it doesn't, in any industry, and they would be happy to take on a volunteer, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and it might parlay into a job.
It absolutely could. Yeah.
Well, there you go. We have some suggestions for a very difficult year and difficult hiring season for law students. But I'd also like to say that there still is hiring going on. We keep track of numbers, and we notice that they continue to hire new attorneys at law firms. So all is not lost in that realm. But if you do find yourself in difficulty, some of Mark's suggestions may come in handy. Well, Mark, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Good luck to everyone.
And thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you again next time right here on Leopard Chat.